Every morning, 1.5 billion people on this planet start their day the same way. They pick up a cup, pour hot water over dark roasted beans, and take that first sip. Coffee, a drink that half of humanity seems unable to wake up without. In apartments, offices, and street cafes all over the world, the same ritual repeats itself every day. But for decades, we've been told the same thing. Be careful. Coffee is bad for your heart. It raises blood pressure, it wears down your blood vessels, drink too much, and you're heading toward a heart attack. Everyone has heard this. Grandmothers warned us. Doctors frowned. Co-workers shook their heads at your third cup. But is it actually true? Is coffee really the enemy of your heart? Or have we been afraid for no reason all these years? Today, we're going to find out once and for all, myth or reality. To understand why people are so afraid of coffee, we have to go back in time, to the 1970s and 1980s. This was the era when medicine became deeply focused on cardiovascular disease. Heart attacks and strokes were devastating populations, especially in Western countries. Scientists were looking for someone, or something, to blame. And you know what? Coffee became a very convenient target. Everyone drank it. People drank a lot of it. It was everywhere. And when people want a simple answer to a complicated problem, there's always something easy to point the finger at. In 1978, a study published in a respected medical journal in Boston followed a group of men and found that those who drank a lot of coffee seemed to have more heart problems. The newspaper headlines were exactly what you'd expect. Coffee is killing your heart. But here's the part almost nobody paid attention to back then. Those same men who were drinking 6 to 8 cups of coffee a day were also smoking. A lot. Their diets weren't exactly healthy either, and many of them lived highly sedentary lives. The study failed to separate the effect of coffee from the effects of everything else. That's what scientists call confounding variables. In other words, blaming coffee for heart problems in that situation is like blaming an umbrella for the rain. People with umbrellas are always seen in the rain, but that doesn't mean umbrellas cause storms. But by then, it was too late. The idea had already taken hold. And there was one more thing that made the myth feel true. Almost everyone has had too much coffee at least once. Your heart starts racing, your hands shake a little, you feel anxious. That personal experience seemed to confirm what the headlines were saying. Of course coffee is bad. I can literally feel my heart pounding. And that's how one of the most persistent health myths was born. To be fair, the people who believe coffee is bad for the heart do have arguments, and some of them sound pretty convincing. So let's give the floor to the prosecution. Argument number 1, and the biggest one of all, caffeine really does raise blood pressure. That part is not a myth. It's a proven fact. After a cup of coffee, systolic blood pressure, the top number, can rise by 5 to 10 millimeters of mercury, sometimes even more. And high blood pressure is one of the major risk factors for strokes and heart attacks. So the logic seems straightforward. Coffee raises blood pressure. High blood pressure damages blood vessels, therefore coffee damages blood vessels. Simple, clear, and scary. Argument number 2. Many people feel their heartbeat change after drinking coffee. Skipped beats, irregular rhythm, a racing heart. Doctors call these things extrasystoles or tachycardia. Caffeine stimulates the nervous system, increases adrenaline, and makes the heart work harder. For someone who already has rhythm problems, that can sound like a warning sign. Argument number 3. Caffeine is a psychoactive substance. It can lead to dependence. Without your morning cup, you may feel a headache, irritability, or fatigue. Your body starts asking for its usual dose, and any dependence can be seen as a form of chronic stress. Chronic stress leads to inflammation. Inflammation damages blood vessels. Once again, the chain seems to point in the same direction. And there's one more point people often forget. Coffee isn't just caffeine. It's also everything we add to it. Sugar, cream, syrups. A large caramel latte from a coffee shop can easily contain 400 calories and 50 grams of sugar. And that definitely is not doing your heart any favors. So yes, the case against coffee sounds serious. Blood pressure, arrhythmia, stress, sugar. At first glance, it seems obvious. Case closed. Coffee is guilty, but not so fast. Now it's time for the defense. And trust me, it has a lot to say. Because science didn't stop in the 1980s. And what researchers have discovered over the last 20 years completely changes the picture. Let's start with scale. Over the past 2 decades, scientists have conducted dozens of major studies involving hundreds of thousands of people, and the results were shocking to anyone who had grown up believing coffee was basically poison. In 2013, a large meta-analysis reviewed data from more than 1.2 million participants. The conclusion? Moderate coffee consumption, around 3 to 5 cups a day, does not increase the risk of cardiovascular disease. In fact, it appears to reduce it. Yes, reduce it by about 15%. On average, people who drank coffee lived longer and were less likely to die from heart-related problems than those who didn't drink coffee at all. Now let's go back to blood pressure. Yes, caffeine can raise it, but, and this is the key point, only temporarily, usually for about 30 to 60 minutes. After that, it returns to normal. In people who drink coffee regularly, the body develops tolerance, and that spike becomes much smaller or may almost disappear. Your body adapts. What's more, in 2023, Italian cardiologists reported that regular coffee drinkers actually had lower central aortic pressure than people who didn't drink coffee at all. Now for arrhythmia. In 2021, a major study published in JAMA Internal Medicine followed nearly 400,000 participants. Researchers from the University of California, San Francisco, monitored them over several years using wearable heart devices. The result, coffee did not increase the risk of atrial fibrillation. In fact, each additional daily cup of coffee was associated with a 3% lower risk of arrhythmia, 3% per cup. The drink we were told to fear may not be the enemy of heart rhythm at all. It might even be an ally. And here's something else that matters. Coffee is one of the biggest sources of antioxidants in the average person's diet. Chlorogenic acid, polyphenols, melanoidins. These compounds help fight inflammation, protect blood vessel walls, and reduce oxidative stress. In other words, coffee isn't just caffeine. It's a highly complex mix of more than 1,000 biologically active compounds, and many of them may actually help protect your cardiovascular system. One of the biggest studies to date, published in the European Journal of Preventive Cardiology in 2022, followed nearly 450,000 people for an average of 12.5 years. The result, people who drank 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day had a 14% lower risk of dying from cardiovascular disease, and this applied not only to ground coffee, but also to instant coffee, and even decaf. Decaf, which means the story isn't just about caffeine. The drink itself, with all of its compounds, may be protecting the heart. So, it's time for the verdict. Is it true that coffee is bad for your heart? According to modern science, dozens of meta-analyses and studies involving millions of people, the answer is myth. Moderate coffee consumption, up to 3 to 5 cups a day, not only does not harm the heart, but most likely helps protect it. It is associated with a lower risk of heart attacks, strokes, arrhythmias, and overall cardiovascular mortality. Drink coffee mindfully, drink it with pleasure, and know this: science is on your side, but, and this is important, there are exceptions. If you already have severe hypertension or a serious rhythm disorder, listen to your doctor, not YouTube. If you're pregnant, the recommended caffeine limits are different. And if your coffee is really a giant caramel frappuccino loaded with whipped cream, then the problem isn't the coffee, it's the sugar and fat. And finally, here's a bonus fact that might surprise you. Do you know which country drinks the most coffee per person in the world? Not Italy, not Brazil, not America, Finland. On average, Finns consume about 12 kilograms of coffee per person per year. That's roughly 4 to 5 cups every single day. And yet Finland consistently ranks among the countries with the highest life expectancy and some of the best cardiovascular health indicators in Europe. A coincidence? Maybe. But for a so-called deadly poison, those results are pretty suspicious. That's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments, how many cups of coffee do you drink a day? And did you believe coffee was bad for the heart? See you in the next episode. Myth or reality? Let's figure it out together.